If I can't show you how to do it, it can't be done. I guarantee it.
Hey guys, Ken Tamplin here, and I'm here at Costa Mesa Studios with my mix engineer Nick Feinbarg, and we're going to take on Freddie Mercury for our vocal demonstration today, probably the most requested vocalist to date, and it goes like this. Roll it. I've paid my dues, time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And our mistakes, I've made a few. I've had my shots and kicked in my face, but I ain't gonna lose. We are the champions, my friends. We'll keep on fighting till the end. Every day of my life, I work till I ache my bones. At the end, I take home my heart and pay. You're my own. I get down on my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Oh, somebody, ooh, somebody, can anybody find me? I'm going crazy. They say I got a lot of water in my brain. Oh, I got no common sense. I got nobody left to believe. Get your party going, get your pigtails down, get your heartbeat, baby. I got my timing right, I got my act all tight. It's gotta be tonight, my little school band. Your mama says you don't, your daddy says you won't. I'm boiling up inside, ain't no way I'm gonna lose out this time. Oh no. Tie your mother down, tie your mother down. Lock your daddy out the doors, I don't need him nosing around. Tie your mother down, tie your mother down. Give me all your love tonight. This thing I call love, well I can't handle it. This thing I call love, well I must get around to it, ain't ready. Crazy little thing called love. I've gotta be cool, relax, get hip, get on my tracks, take a back seat, hitchhike, and take a long ride on a motorbike until I'm ready. A crazy little thing called love. Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the streets, gonna be a big man someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place. singing, we will rock you. Sing it! We will rock you. Buddy, you're an old man, poor man, pleading with your eyes, gonna make you some peace someday. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace. Somebody better put you back into your place. We will rock you. Sing it! We will rock you. Okay. Whew. So here we have, like I said, just, not just a singer. And guys, I want to say some things. I wrote some things down here, and I don't want to belabor this, but yeah, and I get so many requests of people saying, I want to sing like Freddie Mercury. How did Freddie Mercury sing? And. First of all, Freddie Mercury, I don't think even ever had a single vocal lesson as far as I know. Now, I know he studied in a lot of music schools early on for piano and actually art, believe it or not. But you're talking about a guy who was actually, I think, born in Tanzania. He was of Asian descent, or of Indian descent, I should say, and, grew up in India, grew up in Tanzania. He didn't actually, I think, make it to England until, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 or something like that, when some big war of Tanzania took place. But I want to, in fact, I have it here. He was a British musician, singer, songwriter, best known as a lead vocalist for the rock band Queen. Now, I think even Freddie would think of himself more as a musician or a composer, or someone that was into musicals. In fact, I don't think it's any coincidence that the second album was named A Night at the Opera. So you have a guy who's a composer, a musician, and does things in a very orchestral kind of way. And I say that too because he even admitted at one point that he could barely read music. So how interesting that he went to all these music schools, and yet, the thing he found most important was truly having a passion and selling what he believed. And I think a lot of us want the quick and the easy road out. Freddie had a tough life, man, and he worked really hard. And you can even hear from all of us, I work hard every day of my life. I work till I ache my bones. At the end of the day, I take home my hard-earned pay all on my own. I get down on my knees and I start to pray till the tears run down from my eyes. Lord, somebody find me somebody to love. So you see this expression of overcoming and working hard and frustration and anguish and joy. We are the champions. We will rock you. These anthemic things, and yet at the same time, he can come and he can take this natural God-given 4-octave range, and then he could sing like kind of an Elvis, ish sort of song, that we just heard, which is Find Me Somebody to Love, and then also, what was the other tune we did? This A Crazy Little Thing Called Love. So anyway, you take a Crazy Little Thing Called Love. Well, he was into Cliff Richards. He was into Little Richard, some of these old school guys. But anyway, I also wanted to point out a couple things here again. So his childhood in India began taking piano lessons at the age of 7. In 1954, at the age of 8, Mercury was also sent to study at St. Peter's School, a British-style boarding school for boys. So the guy got stuck in a boarding school, right? When he finally he goes through several bands too, I want to add. I think he went through maybe 7 or 8 bands before he actually landed Queen. At an early age, I hear so many people complaining about 2 or 3 bands that they've gone through, right? And so he goes through band after band after band. And ironically, when he finally lands, the few players that we see in Queen, guess what? Brian May contracts hepatitis, and I think he's out of the band for the first year. So one of my all-time favorite guitar players almost didn't make the band, right? But then, as fate would have it, later this all came together, and again, we know them as Queen. But I also want to emphasize one thing: he got nodes toward about the middle or 3/4 of the way into his career. And he went from being able to sing, F6, way above high C, all the way down to around a B or an A, because he developed nodules in his cords, and he refused to get surgery. So we see, that it would have been cool had he maybe taken some lessons and had he done some things the right way. We might have had a much better performance towards the end of his life, as we saw at the beginning of his life. So anyway, I felt it necessary to do a little extra on Freddie. So there's not a lot of technicality that I want to share with you. I've paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime. And by mistakes, I've made a few. He has all these very Broadway operatic sort of things. So, he was able to take that and turn it into also a rock voice and Elvis and all these different things we mentioned. So thank you for joining me, Ken Templin Vocal Academy, and hope you enjoyed it.